There are many types of belly dance, which has led some people to come up with all sorts of labels. One of these is cabaret, but it comes with a bit of baggage. Let's explore. Hi, I'm Kashmir, and for many years belly dance was just belly dance. It didn't need any labels. In the countries of origin it was just Raqs, dance, for centuries. And when it initially came to America it also didn't need much in the way of labels. In the 1970s, Morocco recalls seeing a group of dancers who informed her very haughtily that they were doing the pure form of the dance. They were authentic, they were tribal, not like those sparkly fake cabaret dancers. So the first known use of the word cabaret applied to belly dance was definitely a put down. Morocco in turn said that they must be Californian tribal, because they certainly didn't look like any belly dancers that she knew from the Middle East. But there are some other issues involved. One is that you'll often hear that exact dichotomy: cabaret, tribal. Now, there are more types of belly dance than cabaret. Belly dance is a huge, wide, varied and interesting form of dance. And what this is basically saying is that all of that is lumped together and that is called cabaret. Well, that's not very accurate. Many of the more traditional dancers would actually say what some tribal dancers call cabaret is effectively belly dance. So we have a problem right from there. But the other problem is with the word itself. Now in English, cabaret is often used to mean entertainment and food. So you go there, you sit down, you have your meal and you watch the stage show. That's not the origin of the word. It originally comes from Europe, but is also used very much in the Middle East. And in both cases, in Europe and the Middle East, it is a very derogatory word. In Egypt, for example, there's a very distinct difference between cabaret dancers and nightclub dancers. Nightclub dancers are the high-class dancers. They're the ones who usually have their licenses. They're trained. Cabaret dancers dance in cabarets. And cabarets is not another name for a nightclub. They are really seedy dives. And in many cases they really are brothels. Now people often say, well, in the Middle East everyone says that belly dancers are prostitutes. Yes and no. They are very low status, but not everyone believes that because you are a dancer you are physically a prostitute, as in involving in sexual acts. That is not the case for a cabaret dancer. A cabaret dancer is much, much lower class. She's in a much, much lower class dive. This isn't a case of, oh, they believe this, but we know in our hearts that belly dance is pure. No, if you're dancing in a cabaret, quite often, not always, but quite often, you are dancing for not the best of motives. The term cabaret comes from France. The first official cabaret, and of course, like all these things, there would have been a progression, was the Chat Noir, 1881. This was in Paris, and it was a place for painters, artists, poets to meet and to confront the bourgeois society. They weren't there to talk about daffodils on hills. They were very much confronting, and what I see, a lot of the entertainment there was also confronting. It may not be as much as extreme as it became later in Germany, but it wasn't somewhere that you'd take your grandmother or your small child. Cabarets reached Germany, Berlin by about 1901. And they took it to another level. So again, we have entertainment that was deliberately confronting, initially artistic, but it became then later on a very dark entertainment. So when you talk about cabarets in Europe, you're talking about cocaine, alcohol, live sex shows, perversion. You're not sitting there and watching someone sing along nicely. It's very, very dark. So that brings us to our famous one. Life is a cabaret, oh chum, come to the cabaret. Yeah, well, okay, so I didn't warm up my voice beforehand. So many people say, oh, well, yes, but that's in Europe, but we have Cabaret, and it's a great film. Yes, it is a great film. Have you actually watched the film as opposed to listening to the songs? Now, here in New Zealand, things like homosexuality, abortion, and prostitution are actually legal. But for many people, these are not considered to be family entertainment themes. It's a very dark movie, even without the Nazis and all the rest of it. And from what I read, the Kit Kat Club was not at the extreme end of the cabarets. It was sort of in the middle. At the other end were things far darker than two ladies. A man and two ladies? Oh, every man's a fantasy, is it not? In the real cabarets, they wouldn't have just pranced around the room smiling and giggling. There would have been a little bit more action. So the word cabaret is freighted, and if you use it, you risk insulting Middle Easterners. For example, Nadia Gamal was horrified to be told that she did cabaret style. She was not a cabaret dancer. She was an artist. Very, very different. So you've got that level that if you're using the language, that you've got to consider how it is used, not just in your own circle, but how it will be perceived internationally. So that's a big deal. The other one is, as I said, it was originally used as an insult. And do we really want to label ourselves with a word of dubious worth that was originally used as an insult? So what are the alternatives? So it's often used as AMCAB, which is more the vintage, sometimes it's called vintage American. Rocky calls it American Oriental. So Oriental is an alternative to cabaret, and it is specific. It actually means the style of dance that you put on your glittery things and you dance. There's no folk involved, there's no melody involved. You can also use the Arabic translation, which is the Raqs, or you can call it nightclub style, which is after all what it is. And it is shiny, it is with good posture, it is nightclub style. Cabaret, an interesting side note, some of the shabby stuff that is become very popular, a lot of that would be real cabaret style. So what do you call it? Again, write it down below and let's see how many names we have for this dance. And do any of you outside of the United States actually use the term cabaret to describe what you do?